Hello students. Next topic is producer surplus using supply curve. Just as consumer surplus is closely related to the demand curve, producer surplus is closely related to the supply curve. To see how, let's continue our example. We begin by using the cost of the four painters to find the supply schedule for painting services. So here we have given the cost of these four sellers, and now we will use this table to find the supply schedule for painting services. Let's again revise the concept of the cost. What is cost? Cost is basically the lowest price. Cost is the lowest price which a seller would accept for selling her services. So if we are talking about Mary, then $900 is the lowest price that Mary would accept for selling her painting services, and if the price offered to her is less than $500, then Mary will refuse to sell her painting services. Same is the case with Georgia. The lowest price that Georgia would accept for selling her painting services is $600, and if the price offered to her is less than $600, then Georgia will leave the market. Georgia will refuse to sell her painting services. Clear? Now we will use this table to find the supply schedule for painting services. And when we are talking about supply schedule, on one side we have price and on the other side we have quantity supplied. Okay. So the first case is less than $500. If the price offered is less than $500, let's suppose it is $499. Okay. Let's start with the case of grandma. The lowest price that grandma would accept is $500, and if the price offered to her is less than $500, which is, let's suppose it is $499, then grandma will leave the market. Grandma will refuse to sell her painting services, right? Same is the case with the remaining sellers, right? $499. Okay, so I think there will be no seller in this case, and when there are no sellers, then quantity supplied is 0. Clear? Let's start with the second case when the price is between $500 to $600. Okay, let's take it as $599. So if we see the case of grandma, the lowest price that grandma would accept is less than the price offered. It is $599. Then I think that yes, grandma will be willing to sell her painting services, right? But if we talk about Georgia, then Georgia will leave the market, or Georgia will refuse to sell her painting services because the price offered to her is less than the lowest price that she would accept. So I think there will be only one seller in this case. So there will be only one seller in this case, which is grandma. Grandma. And when there is one seller, then the quantity supplied is 1. Clear? Next one. When the price offered is between $600 to $800, let's take it as $799. Then $799. So grandma will be willing to sell her painting services. Same is the case with Georgia. Georgia will also be willing to sell her painting services. But if we talk about Frida and Mary will leave the market, or they will refuse to sell her painting services. So there will be two sellers in this case, Georgia and grandma. And when there are two sellers, then the quantity supplied is 2. Clear? Next case, when the price is between $800 to $900, let's take it as $899. So there will be three sellers in this case: Grandma, Georgia, and Frida. But if we talk about Mary, then Mary will refuse to sell her painting services. So there are three sellers: Frida, Georgia, and Grandma, and the quantity supplied is 3. Last one, when the price offered is $900 or more, then I think that all the four sellers will be willing to sell their painting services. So in this case, all the four sellers will be there: Mary, Frida, Georgia, and Grandma. Quantity supplied is 4. Clear? So we have derived this supply schedule. Now we will use this supply schedule to derive the supply curve. Here we have this vertical axis and this is the horizontal axis. This is the origin. On the vertical axis we have taken price of house painting, and on the horizontal axis we have taken quantity of house painted. So let's see this case first. When the price offered is less than $500, quantity supplied is 0. So basically we are in this portion. When the price offered is less than $500, quantity supplied is 0. So basically supply curve will coincide with the vertical axis. Supply curve will look like this. It will coincide with the vertical axis in this portion. Now the second case, this one, when the price offered is between $500 to $600, the quantity supplied is 1. So in this range, $500 to $600, in this range, quantity supplied is 1. So supply curve will look like this. Okay. Next, in this range, $600 to $800, quantity supplied is 2. $600 to $800, in this range, quantity supplied is 2. So the supply curve will look like this. Next, when the price offered is between $800 to $900, quantity supplied is 3. So in this range, when the price offered is between $800 to $900, quantity supplied is 3. So the supply curve, you can draw the supply curve like this. And last one, when the price offered is $900 or more, quantity supplied is 4. When the price offered is $900 or more, quantity supplied is 4. Clear? And now we will join these curves in this way. And here we have derived the supply curve. Now we will see the relationship between the height of the supply curve and the cost of the marginal seller. Okay, but before going on to this relationship, I think we should first understand the meaning of a marginal seller, that what is meant by marginal seller. Marginal seller, the seller who would leave the market first if the price were any lower. तो जैसे ही प्राइस थोड़ा सा अगर डिक्रीज होगा, जो सेलर सबसे पहले मार्केट को छोड़ के चला जाएगा उसे हम कहेंगे मार्जिनल सेलर, द सेलर हु वुड लीव द मार्केट फर्स्ट if the price offered were any lower. So when the quantity of house painted is 4, when the quantity of house painted is 4, in this case, the height of the supply curve or the price given by the supply curve is, when the quantity of house painted is 4, the height of the supply curve is $900. Okay, it is $900. And in this case, marginal seller is Mary. Because $900 is the cost of Mary, is the lowest price that a Mary would accept for selling her services. And if the price offered to Mary is less than $500, Mary will be the first one who will leave the market. So Mary is the marginal seller. This $900 is the cost of Mary, cost of the marginal seller. Clear? And we can write here as that this is Mary's cost. Okay. When the quantity of house painted is 3, in this case, the height of the supply curve or price given by the supply curve is, when the quantity of house painted is 3, the height of the supply curve or the price given by the supply curve is $800. So it is $800, and the marginal seller would be Frida, because $800 is the lowest price that Frida would accept for selling her services, and if the price offered to Frida is less than $800, then Frida will be the first one who will leave the market. So in this case, marginal seller is Frida. And we can write here as that this is Frida's cost. Next, when the quantity of house painted is 2, when the quantity of house painted is 2, the height of the supply curve is $600. It is $600, and in this case, marginal seller will be Georgia, because $600 is the lowest price that Georgia would accept for selling her services, and if the price offered to Georgia is less than $600, then Georgia will be the first one who will leave the market. So we can write here as that this is Georgia's cost. Last case, when the quantity of house painted is 1, in this case the height of the supply curve is $500. It is $500, and in this case marginal seller is grandma, because if the price offered is less than $500, grandma will be the first one who will leave the market. So we can write here as that this is grandma's cost. So I think you can relate, you can see the relationship between the height of the supply curve and the cost of the marginal seller. The area below the price and above the supply curve measures the producer surplus in the market. The logic is straightforward. The height of the supply curve measures the seller cost, and the difference between the price and the cost of production is each seller's producer surplus. See what they are saying, that the area below the price and above the supply curve, it measures the producer surplus in the market. Why? Because the height of the supply curve, which we have already seen, that the height of the supply curve measures the seller cost, right? We have seen in the diagram, right? And the difference between the price and the seller's cost is seller's producer surplus. That is the reason they are saying that the area between the price and below the price and above the supply curve, it measures the producer surplus in the market. Thus, the total area is the sum of the producer surplus of all the sellers. Let's understand the meaning of this theory part with the help of a diagram. So let's assume the price is $600. We are assuming that the price is $600. Okay. When the price offered is $600, I think there will be only one seller, which is grandma, which is grandma, because grandma's cost is $500, right? Rest the remaining sellers will refuse to sell their painting services, because if we see their cost, Georgia has a cost of $600. Then I think Frida has a cost of $800, and Mary has a cost of I think it's 900, if I'm not wrong. Okay, so basically, if we talk about these three sellers, because if the price offered is slightly less than $600, then Georgia will leave the market. Frida, it is already $800. It is so the lowest price that Frida would accept is less than the price offered. Again, Frida will also leave the market, and Mary will leave the market. So there will be only one seller in this case, that is grandma. Okay. Now, producer surplus is the area below the price and above the supply curve. Okay. So this is the price offered $600, below the price and above the supply curve. That means this portion we are talking about. This portion. And this $500 is the grandma's cost. This is grandma's cost. Okay, so this portion is the producer surplus. Grandma's producer surplus of $100, and we can calculate this as you can see that this is the shape of a rectangle, and the area of a rectangle is length into breadth. Okay, so this portion is $100, right? This is $100. Multiply this portion. This portion is equal to this portion, and it is 1. So $100 into 1, it is equal to $100. So we can write grandma's producer surplus is $100. Clear? Let's see the other example, that if we assume the price offered is $800, if we assume that the price offered is $800, in this case we will have two sellers. First one, grandma, right? Because the cost of grandma is $500. So the grandma will be willing to sell her painting services, right? Same is the case with Georgia. Georgia, right? It is $600, less than 800. But if we talk about Mary, The cost of Mary is $800. So if the price is slightly less than $800, Mary will leave the market. Okay, and Frida's cost is $900. It is greater than the price offered. Again, Frida will also leave the market. We will be left with only two sellers, which is Grandma and Georgia. Now let's first see the producer surplus of Grandma. This is the price offered, which is $800. Producer surplus is the area below the price and above the supply curve. Right. Grandma's cost is $500. This is Grandma's cost. Grandma's cost. Below the price, above the supply curve. Right. So basically, this portion we are talking about. This portion we are talking about, and this is Grandma's producer surplus of $300. We can calculate this value as, again, the same formula, length into breadth. So this portion, this is $800 minus $500, which is $300. So we can write $300 multiply this portion, and this portion is equal to this portion, which is 1. So $300 into 1, it is equal to $300. So in this way, you can calculate Grandma's producer surplus as $300. Okay. Now let's see the producer surplus of Georgia. Again, the price is same. Price offered is $800. And if we talk about this thing, let's change the color. Okay. If we talk about this thing, it is Georgia's. It is Georgia's cost, right? Georgia's cost is $600. So the area below the price and above the supply curve, that means this portion. This portion will be the producer surplus of Georgia. So this portion is the Georgia's producer surplus of $200. We can calculate this value as this length is $800 minus $600, which is $200. Multiply this portion, and this portion is equal to this portion, right? So it is $200 into 1, it is equal to $200. Clear? And the total producer surplus will be $500, which is $300 plus $200. Okay. Thank you.